are live, hopefully.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Oh, dearie me. Let's have a look. Yeah, stream is healthy and main window. Hopefully. Hello, world. And welcome to podcast number 6 with me, Sergio.
6, yes.
And Andrew, aka AJ Atomica. So, Andrew, how are you this fine, freezing cold evening?
Yeah,
0 degrees.
It is pretty cold. I was feeling it today, but other than that, I'm okay. I'm tired. Work, gym, usual shit. But I'm tired. I'll live.
Yo.
First issues, I don't try to complain too much if I can help it.
That's all right.
But yeah, I'm doing good. How are you, Sergio?
Same boat. Well, Mrs. got a new car, so
Yeah, I did see that on Facebook.
I had a bit of a. Was over the weekend, went through a few car garages and just couldn't find what we wanted. And I've seen some really bad garages, and went to one in Stoke-on-Trent called, I think the name should have gave it away. I think it was called like Bargain Car Sales something. And
that should pretty much give it away.
But there was a car there that looked quite interesting. We've been looking for like small hatchbacks, low in tax, great miles per gallon, fuel consumption, and we found a Vauxhall Corsa 1.3 turbo diesel, 30 quid tax a year, like 60 plus miles per the gallon, just within our price range, and he looked fantastic on the pictures on their website. And we got there and we looked around and we're like, is this the right place? Because it looks like a dump. It's like, what the hell is this? Anyway, look, we're here. Let's go through and start walking through the lines on the cars. And we looked, and most of the cars had flat tires. So that was like a giveaway. So we got to the sales office and I said, hiya, just came here to have a look at the Corsa. And I said, oh yeah, fine, just give me the key, Okay. No, I understand why you gave me the key. Because the reason he gave me the keys, once I opened the car and we were looking inside, I opened the engine and I looked at the engine, it was just covered in oil.
What?
And I was like, okay, car done only like 52,000 miles, 2008 plate, I think. And then I said, okay, let's turn him over. And I put the key, and all I hear was, and the fuel was empty as well. So I said, right, I think this is like time to go. So I gave the key back, and I said, thanks very much. Oh, you're not interested? I said, well, the car doesn't even turn over. Oh, I can get it going for you. I said, no thanks, I'll go elsewhere. So locally, we looked at about 4 or 5 garages. And I need to give a big shout out to Wistanton Car Sales in Crewe. Very small garage, had a little perky, bright green Renault Clio. So firstly, we got the same car that we already had, but newer. And it was within the price range, a little bit over. And Mrs. over the moon with it. I'm not kidding it. You won't lose in a car park. It's bloody bright green.
After seeing the pictures, I was going to say, who chose the colour?
Well, the guy had it for 5 weeks, and there was no takers because people were put off.
Because of the colour.
Yeah, my missus said, "Don't care about the colour. It's new. It's immaculate. 57,000 miles on the clock, and it's like." It's shiny and clean. I thought, oh God, you sound like Richard. But she's over the moon. So we've been swapping over insurance, and now I've got her all clear to kind of sort out. And that's the reason why we had to change cars, because we had the Renault Clio for about 8 years. We bought it with 40,000 miles, and it's reached 93,000, and little issues start showing up near the 100,000 miles. So needs to go to the garage, and engine mounts need sorting, and what else? Leaky shock. I've done everything else, so I'll be using that.
You talk about mileage. My bike recently passed 10,000 miles. I've had it since 2012, but I don't ride it all that much. And I noticed that instead of actually clicking over to 10,000, it was the one for the 100,000 ticked over. And I was like, what? So obviously it's got like a bit of a dodgy, I don't know what you would call it, like a clock on the front.
Okay.
So, I don't know if they'll pick that up in a service or an MOT, but I'm due to have an MOT in March, so we'll soon see.
Yeah, so last 3-4 days was just cars. I was just sick and tired of looking through websites and websites.
Yeah.
And when you're on a budget, and we try to find a car that hits that £30 a year tax, and there's not many out there. There's only certain cars, but trying to find one that's not been abused, and this one just peachy. So it's covered for the next.
All
3
because
months.
it's lime green.
Yeah, lady owner, had this since 2009, and full service history. And I'm not kidding. Inside, it's brand new. I'm sure it had.
I was going to say, if you really wanted to, you could always respray it. Yeah, it'll cost a bit, but if you really wanted to.
Mrs. likes it, so I'm going to leave it as it is. But anywho, this is a Tech Talk podcast. So what we're going to cover today?
Well, I'll let you start first, being you're the one that's actually prepared this evening.
That's putting on. I get things going, and as Nvidia is trying to get AMD's shining light away from the GPUs, at Tweetown there was quite an interesting article considering rumours, and I'll just switch that over so people can actually see. Bring that up. So rumours are that Nvidia upcoming next gen Volta GPU is going to be using a custom 12 nanometer process, and some of the specs that's been leaked. So people are straight away asking what they're going to call it, and at the moment the rumors is the 3000 series, because the 2000 series is going to be a Pascal refresh. So they virtually saying they're going to refresh it and probably add 10-50% additional performance, lower temperatures, a bit more overclocking headroom, and there won't be a shift on the type of memory like GDDR6 or HBM2. And that will come out probably at some point, either late 2007, beginning 2012. But Volta is in the cards for 2012. Now, Volta, what to expect? There's some big bloody numbers. They are virtually speculating that these will be high-end cards, the top-end cards, like the Tesla cards, up to 32 gigs of GDDR6, which can provide 16 gigabits of bandwidth in comparison to providing 512 gigabytes a second memory bandwidth. Now, in regards to cores, let's have a look, see if I can find it.
It's going to be in the thousands. It's going to be quite a bit.
Well, I mean, this is virtually just rumours, but it gives an indication. Yeah. So they are still saying that they're going to be using a 256-bit memory bus, which is like, okay, so they're not increasing that. So they're sticking the same. But with Volta, they are either using GDDR6 or HBM2 memory, so hopefully by 2018 they should have sorted the shortage of those chips, because they didn't have them for 2017. But for anybody that bought the 1000 series cards with the refresh coming along, is it worth upgrading? I don't think so, but
no.
It's virtually what they're saying is that that there will be an extra 10-50% headroom. Well, you can do that at this moment in time with the current cards. But I take any rumors with a pinch of salt. But Tweetown lately has actually been getting some stuff spot on. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that? as you're now the owner of a 10,000 series graphics
Yeah,
card?
I've got a 1080 now. I'll actually get the box so you can. I've got proof.
Yeah.
There we are.
Right. So the Gigabyte G1.
Yep. Yeah, I wasn't really wanting to go for a Gigabyte, I must admit, but it's the only one I could find that was affordable within my price range. Because EVGA ones are always over the £600 mark. Even second-hand ones, it's still ridiculous. But finding that one brand new was for about 550 quid, and it's got a really good cooler on it actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about the
G1
game. Yeah.
I know it very well because my card is a G1, a 980 Ti.
Yeah.
And I had a 970. So the only thing that I know about the 1000 series G1 is that on the 1000 series cards, because the G1 used to be Gigabyte's top end, they've introduced an Elite, which is the Extreme.
Is it the Extreme OC or
the Extreme? But don't take away nothing from the card. The card is phenomenal. I love it that the fans. I don't know if that's on the 1000 series. Don't kick in until 60 degrees. I think it is. And
it's on it right now, and it's running at 48 degrees for some reason. But I've got my MSI Afterburner up right now because I was actually going to talk to you live about the overclocking because I said to you before that my overclock didn't work.
Okay, so
I didn't add too much to it. So what I've got plus on the core clock is I've got plus 150.
Yeah.
Currently.
Okay,
before
you jump there, what's your default? So what is your card automatically boosting?
It automatically boosts to 2 gigahertz.
Yep. Okay.
It just does it automatically.
Yeah.
And
what's
the default
your
is
core?
1695. That's what its base runs at.
Yeah.
And the boost is about 1801, something like that.
Yep.
So it boosts quite high. Like it's guaranteed to boost that high anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it runs plenty fast for me, to be honest. But I was wanting to see what I could get out of it if I was to overclock it.
Yeah.
But I think.
Sorry. Go on.
I don't know if it's just because of MSI Afterburner. Maybe I need to update it. I haven't actually checked. But whenever I play around with the temp limit, the power limit, it kind of like bugs out.
So the 1000 series cards, there's an MSI version that this was released to deal with the dynamic overclocking, which allows you to like press Control and F and opens a secondary window so you can see the actual different points where it's boosting up to. You can get that, MSI website. Now, in regards to overclocking the 1000 series, because of the dynamic boost and frequency and adjusting with the temperature. No, okay.
Continue on.
All right. So for those that got any cards, you have noticed that it's not about, in comparison to Maxwell, it's not about sticking like 150 megahertz and expecting to boost it up to whatever. With the 1000 series cards, it dynamically adjusts it. So it's all down to the actual voltage. All cards by Nvidia, all 1080s, are locked by Nvidia at 1.094 volts. So what happens is you can put 200 megahertz overclock, and you'll accept it. But because there's enough juice, you only boost to 2150, 2167, give or take. So what Andrew's going to find out, he's putting like 150, and it's not stable. And it's not because the card cannot handle 150 on the core, is that the power limit is reached, and once it reaches, you can't get nothing more out of it. Now, you can flash the BIOS to increase the power target. I'm not sure on this card. Mine is about 122, but you can get up to 130, but depends on the BIOS that you use. And with that, you can give it that little bit extra juice to make sure that your overclock is one, stable, and secondly, it doesn't dynamically clocks down. because that's what the card does. It will virtually try to balance power and temperature, and virtually you'll notice that a 13 megahertz decreases as the card gets hotter, and once it gets cooler it will boost slightly up again in little steps of either 13 or 26 megahertz. I found that out on two different cards, the Galaxy 1080, and had plenty of power and had the option there built in within their own software to increase the voltage past 0.094 volts, but because it's kind of locked by Nvidia, doesn't matter how much voltage you give, it's stuck at that level. So the maximum that I've managed to get on air is 2165 on both cards, and this is what you will see. It doesn't matter virtually what cards you get, the 1080s, 2165 seems to be the top. Now the advantages of water cooling it is that you can keep the card cool. You're not going to reach a higher, you're not going to pass the 2200 water cool because you're limited by the voltage that's throwing into the card. But what you will get is less fluctuations of your boost going up and down, up and down. As long as you keep the card around the 40 degrees, and this is what I found, 42 actually, there won't be any step down, and you don't have to adjust any voltage to or power target. If you want to eliminate the dynamic boosting going up and down, what you can do is increase the power target and the actual voltage slightly, and that will maintain it. But with any increasement of voltage, you'll get also an increasement of temperatures, and that's where water cooling comes in. On air-cooled cards, temperatures reach anything between 60 and 70, and depends what type of card you got. So it's a bit trickier overclocking the Pascal cards as such, but it can be done, and I think what Andrew has found is that he's trying to find that balance, how many megahertz to put extra on the core and how much voltage to give, because you got voltage power target and you also got the actual voltage that is feeding to the card. So
sorry about that.
You're all right. Not to worry.
Thought I'd leave you in the element. I'll explain after what that was about.
Okay.
But yeah,
No
let's
worries.
carry on.
That's okay. So with your overclock, what you will notice, if you put only 150 megahertz on a core, and what's the boost gets to once that's applied?
Currently, because I think I might be running an older version of MSI Afterburner, it just stays at
Right.
1.999. So it doesn't, or 1999. It doesn't go any higher than that.
So this is right. So so what that's saying is, it doesn't matter what you put, you can't go any higher because there's not enough voltage. Now, if you simply move the power target from 100 to where does it go to? 120 or on the MSI?
Yeah, it goes to 108. It's the power limit.
Okay, so you definitely need to, get a new version of MSI Afterburner. So what you will need to do to get the actual, because virtually you're not getting no benefit at all, because you told me as stock default clocks, the card itself will boost to over 2000 megahertz. So in essence, if you were putting 150 megahertz, you should be expecting at least a 2150 boost. To be able to achieve that on your card, all you have to do is increase the power limit to the maximum you can get, adjust your fan curves to about 65-70%, and then increase the core voltage, the MV, to start at 52 mark, and then you slightly increase it. And what you will notice when you do like a run on like Heaven Valley or anything like that, you'll see your boost go slightly higher, and just finding the balance of increasing the core, because all that is your card doesn't have enough juice to be able to support that demanded
Yeah, I get you.
150 megahertz. So yeah,
I just need to update my software then. That's
That-
basically what it is.
but one of the websites I tend to use a lot is 3D Guru, and 3D Guru do a lot of testing, and I guarantee you, I can tell you that yep, most likely they've done the test on your card, and I can tell you straight off the bat. And the advantage with them, they actually, you can actually use the gigabyte software that came with the card as well. But
Yeah, I haven't downloaded that yet.
so this is what you will get on your card. Your core is 1696, boost to 1835, and by putting 150 megahertz on the core memory, you'll be able to put 625 megahertz. Increase the voltage 100%, the power limit to 108. The maximum boost that you will get out of that card, and depends on the sample, is about 2088.
Yeah.
So, which is quite surprising. I was expecting a bit higher than that.
I guess well, like you said, it's the silicon lottery, so it really does depend
Yeah,
on
yeah.
what one I
And
got.
it-
So
But it depends on what you're using it for. So if you are, for example, on Firestrike, it was hovering around the 2 gigahertz, and in some games it jumped to 2.1.
yeah, I mean, I'd be happy with it just sticking at 2 gigahertz.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in
If
some ways, a lot of ways, I mean, 100 megahertz isn't, you know, too much of an impact on game performance. You might get a few frames here or there, but
Yeah.
You know.
I started doing a bit of an Excel spreadsheet, because what I'm finding out testing different cards is the advertised boost on the reference card or Founders Edition card of the 1080 versus some aftermarket cards is one, very underestimated, because most cards will auto boost to around 1900 to 2000. The actual the HOF 1080 goes to 2050, but within a minute it drops down to 2013 or something like that. But I'll see if I can bring it up. Bear with me, and I'll show live. Yeah.
I would load up web pages myself, but we all know.
Oh, you're losing your sound, mate.
Already?
Crackling.
I'm closing down web pages.
That's
I'll just close it down.
that's
I'll just close it.
No. Oh, come on.
My internet's so bad.
I know. But
I mean, come on, you got fiber optics. You should be able to load all this stuff up much faster.
yeah, but I'm trying to find the actual files that I saved it
Yeah,
under.
yeah.
I saved everything.
Yeah.
I'm using Microsoft Office Enterprise 2007, so it's a 10-year-old piece of software. But anyway, overclocking formulas. So, to give you an idea, right, the Nvidia 1080 GTX, the core is a 1607, okay, and its advertised boost is 1865, all right? So, the actual boost itself, so taking... I try to work out what's the megahertz boost from doing nothing, and best case scenario is 258. So auto boost by 258 megahertz. All right. So I did that same exercise on the half 1080, and straight out of the box is at 1733, which is a lot higher than the stock. And boost to 2025. So the actual auto boost is 292. So what that means is when you go into gaming forums and people are saying, "Oh, put 220 megahertz on my Founders Edition." You can only get 140. Well, I don't need to put any more, because out of the box it's got over 100 megahertz already overclocked on the core, and all I need to apply is 130. And I'm getting 2145. And what I've noticed as well, like best case scenario, in most cards, is that the higher core you got to begin with, the less you need to put, because virtually the ceiling on these cards is about 2165.
Yeah.
That's what I've been finding, and I've tested four cards so far, and I can't get past that because of the voltage. So there you go. But
well, maybe with the refresh at the end of the year, it'll, like you said, they'll probably increase that so that overclocking will be a bit higher. Probably, I would have thought they'd probably allow the cards to reach 2.5 maybe.
No,
before the new lot.
No,
not that high.
No,
you think that'd be too high?
That's too much of a jump, mate. I mean, how long do we have to wait from the 1500 megahertz 980 Ti to get to that? No
I
chance.
think these cards have a lot of potential, but like you said, they've been limiting the voltage, so it's probably on purpose.
Yeah, and sticking with Nvidia, they've been, excuse the language, they've been fucking over the partners, the Asus, Gigabyte, MSI, by the Founders Edition cards. Because it's been reported that, again, if I can find it, that, I'll just swap that over so people can actually see what I'm talking about. Nvidia hurting partners' profits with their own cards. So by releasing their cards, the prices to this day, ridiculous. Like you mentioned, 600 plus. There's cards, I think they're still releasing new cards, the 1080s. There's one that's almost £900.
Well, why?
Yeah, £900. And the reason mainly, now this was on Tweetown, is very simple. Nvidia released the Founders Edition like 3-4 weeks before the partners cards, mostly cherry picked the best chips for their own cards with a sexy cooler, and partners have not been getting the sales that would normally get and have to keep their prices up to make frigging money. They haven't, it's like
Doesn't surprise me.
Over 7 months, over 7 months now, and prices are as high as week one, pretty much. And
so really, I was lucky to get the 1080 as cheap as I did. Because I mean, I was keeping an eye on prices, and they were dropping. That's when I tried buying, but I haven't actually looked since I bought because I had no reason to. But I guess the prices have gone up, going by what you're saying.
No, they actually going up. This might be okay. Something's happening there. I don't know. Tweaktown website doesn't like me. Yeah, but for whatever reason, they're not freaking coming down, and that's mainly to Nvidia. Thanks, Nvidia. Fucked us up again.
Well, until Ryzen and Vega come out, I think the prices will stay sky high.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but can't be changed. If the business wants to sell it that way, then that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Have you heard the rumors on the pricing for Ryzen?
No, I have not.
Well, rumors are that they're going to be more expensive than people actually were rumored to be.
Right.
Anything between $550 and $750.
What, like even the cheapest CPU?
We're talking the 8-core 16-thread jobby.
Yeah.
There'll be other versions of it, of course, below that. But that is a bit... Ooh, okay. Yeah. It's still a big difference with Intel, but
if it's got the same performance for, let's say it's $1,100, so probably about $600, or around $600 cheaper.
Yeah.
At its cheapest point, then if they do release it at that, then that's kind of what I was expecting it to be.
Really?
Around 500, well, £500, let's just say. But if it's anywhere between 500 and 700, then the 700 would be worse, but still better than Intel.
Yeah,
but again, that means I don't have a use for an 8-core CPU.
I know.
And go away at last. I don't need you.
But it is interesting to virtually see, because there was a French site that kind of benchmarked a Ryzen engineering sample chip and to see how it performed. Oh bloody hell! I've got pop-ups everywhere. Go away. And but this was an engineering sample, so I think it was 3.2 on the actual core and boosted to 3.4. But some of the latest rumors is saying that the actual chip itself is at 3.6, boosting to 3.9, if not 4 gigahertz, which that will actually not only match the 6900K, but will beat it on virtually 4K gaming. Now, if you remember when AMD did their big show of the Ryzen, they did a comparison, a 6900K with a Titan Pascal playing Battlefield 1 and Ryzen with the Titan Pascal on 4K, and there was about 1 to 2 frames difference.
Yeah, but that's when the area of margin,
Yeah. So. But that was a 3.4 gig. 3.4. Now, what they're saying is that, you're talking an extra 200 megahertz. Now, what difference does that make if in games that are very CPU dependent? I think it will be a very, very good option for somebody that's building a multi-core machine. But I would expect it after all this hype, to AMD to come in at a nice, juicy price to get people. But we'll see in March. We'll see in March. But
I think Paul's Hardware did a speculation video on the pricing and what it could possibly be. Did you see that video?
What's that? Sorry.
Paul's Hardware. He did a video. He was just speculating. It wasn't anything found on like facts or anything. It was just talking about how the pricing could match Intel's and be cheaper by about $50 or $100.
No.
Certain CPUs, like the higher end, could be cheaper by about 100 or so, but the lower end ones, like say the entry level, I think Intel was $170 on his little chart he had, and they put the AMD one around 125 to 150. So it was cheaper by a margin, but not by much.
It's not going to float the boat. If they use that strategy, ain't going to float, because they tried that with their GPUs and that didn't float. They tried the 450, 500 pound mark, Fury X, remember? And that basically fell flat on its face. The only way, and the history of AMD and their CPUs is value with performance. Now, unfortunately, they didn't have the performance on the last generation, but now they have. So, if I was a customer and I had the choice and I had the money to afford a 1600K, and it was like 50 quid cheaper to buy the AMD equivalent, I think I'll need more than 50 quid difference or 100 quid difference to entice me. Because Intel, you know what you're going to get, even though you're paying up on the nose for it. AMD, their history, and this is the only product that they've...
Intel, they have that reliability factor, whereas Ryzen, it's a new process for them, so that we don't know how reliable they are.
There's some interesting technologies, I got to admit. The auto overclocking, the smart fetch, which the processor learns virtually if you're gaming certain games, that it will get quicker and quicker the more you use it, and I like that. Richard is saying, LOL, 600 quid for AMD CPU. Ryzen is just going to be silly expensive, and in comparison, if you're spending that much on chips, you might as well go with the real gear and stick Intel, even if it's not the 6950X and the one below it. Good point. But it doesn't matter, because Intel are coming out with another chip. So, I'm virtually throwing all my topics.
That's fine. Like I said, I wasn't very prepared this week.
As we're talking Intel, so in August this year, Intel are launching the next gen 20-thread CPU. So we Intel just released the new Kaby Lake, and with the top end, the i7 7700 series. So there's going to be a Skylake X, which will be the successor of the 6950X, with a lower 4-core and 8-thread, and Kaby Lake X family as well, with a higher end 10, 8, and 6-core models. What this means is you won't see a 7950X but rather a K-series processor. That's what's rumored. But the good thing is that Intel's going to be launching an Enthusiast Tune X299 chipset, which will house a LGA 2066 socket that will work with 2 generations of processors, which is actually a nice change from Intel, because every time to send a bloody processor, you have to change the bloody motherboard. So,
which is an extra expense.
Well, this is the first time, because the Skylake, the Z170 motherboards, can accept the new Kaby Lake CPUs, but it's up to the manufacturers of the motherboard to provide the BIOS to be able to provide that. But the problem is if I'm going to build a PC and I already have, for example, a Z170 motherboard, that means I need to get a Skylake CPU to update the BIOS so I can use a Kaby Lake CPU.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. But that's rumoured around August.
I mean, it's convenient for those who already have a Skylake and then upgrade into a Kaby Lake. But anyone just getting into it,
Yeah, but there's some good stuff that I'm seeing is that Intel reportedly will be using a native quad-channel DDR4 2667 megahertz RAM, which is great. Also, chipset will offer up to 24 PSI lanes 3.0, and PCB boasting 10, USB 3.0, 8, 2.0, and SATA 3.0, and LAN, but nothing massive. So it looks like they are shying away from the full-blown 40 lanes, which we talked about last time. So this is supposed to be the Enthusiast tuned high-end. And it looks like, because Nvidia's drop of 3-way, 4-way, most boards and chipset are 2-way, 2-way, 2-way. So that's my bit. What do you want to talk about? Go on.
I don't have a lot this week, like I said. I mean, the only thing I really came in with, and it's even, again, it's not a whole lot. It's more to do with guitars than anything, so Richard might find it interesting.
Oh, Richard, there are something for you there.
I said might. Well,
he's got...
Because, I mean, my music taste and Richard's music taste are completely different, but because of the style of the product, it should be interesting. I don't know if he's ever heard of Evertune, or if anyone watching this would have heard of Evertune. But basically, I don't know if you know anything about guitars, but there's a bridge system called a Floyd Rose, which basically holds the strings to the body by springs.
Okay.
So it basically uses the tension of the springs and the string tension itself to basically keep the strings in tune. What the Evertune bridge does is very similar, except it has a spring per string, and allows the strings to stay in tune no matter what. And the stories I've been hearing, it's quite amazing, because normally, with a guitar you got the bow of the neck, and then you've got the string tension on the neck, and then you've also got the bridge and everything. And if like a temperature change happens, like say if you leave your guitar next to a radiator, or if you leave it out in the sun, it will completely detune the guitar, because of like the heat will lose, slacken everything. What the Evertune bridge will do is will compensate for that. So one example I heard is that a band took the guitars straight out of the travel cases, straight from the plane, because you know how high planes go. It gets like -40 in the hold area. And when they got to the gig, they didn't bother, restringing and retuning the guitars. They took them straight out of the case, went on stage, and the guitars were perfectly in tune.
Wow!
So it's a really good system, like for just maintaining and tuning. And the guys who've been watching, have been using it. He hasn't tuned his guitar for about 3-4 months since he last done a string change.
Wow! Okay.
It'll just keep the strings in tune, and any musicians will know how much of a pain in the ass
I can imagine,
can be to keep your guitar in tune.
How much?
Now, if you got a good, it's a lot of money. The cheapest one is about £200 from what I've seen. But I mean, for me to buy something like that, I would have to, I'd have to be playing live a lot in order for me to want to invest in something like that, because that's primarily what its use is for. It's live and also studio recording, which I'm not in a position to do so. But yeah, it's just something that I found really interesting, and I've been watching a lot of videos on lately because I find it really interesting. and also just amp effects as well, like with computer interfaces and stuff. But I'm kind of a newbie when it comes to that sort of thing, so I don't try and delve too much into it. But there's a Fractal Axe FX system. It's about yay big. You can use it live if you wanted to do so, but it's a plug-in into the computer.
Right.
So basically it allows you to plug your guitar straight into that. It comes with its own software as well, and it basically simulates all these like amps and distortion pedals and everything and other effects.
Okay.
It's about £1,000.
Blimey. Yes,
but
probably.
it sounds like the real thing. It's really good.
Wow. Well, Richard just said that's quite impressive, but the Gibson have an auto-tune kit fitted on the guitars on their premium models.
It's not the same.
Not the same, apparently, Richard. What can I say?
I mean, for what I've seen, I must admit, I haven't. The Evertune, it seems pretty unique in its regard of because it's got a spring per string and it uses all sorts of Allen keys. I mean, tuning and intonation on the thing is a pain in the ass, but once you get it there, it will stay there no matter what. Because I've heard stories of someone saying also he had the guitar up above his desk, somehow got knocked off the mount, fell onto his desk and then fell on the floor. He picked it back up and it was still perfectly in tune.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an amazing system.
200
It's expensive, but it's an amazing system.
Richard says Andy needs an effects board Line 6 HD 500X. That doesn't mean nothing to me. Maybe he does
what
to
I
him.
currently have, I don't know how much Richard knows, but I've got a Roland Duro Capture EX. Basically, it's a sound card, external sound card you can plug. It's got 2 ports on it for basically 2 instruments. It's got all sorts of like sound dials and everything, and like for computer and tablet and everything, like switches on the back. It's really good. It's what I currently use to plug my guitar into my computer, so I can get the amp simulation sound back in real time instead of having to use my massive Marshall amp, which is sitting in the corner doing nothing. Because it'd be too loud where I currently live, so I kind of have to have something else, like in my headphones. I know I could get headphones for the amp, but it's still too much of a hassle to drag it out of the corner just to plug in and play. So with this, I just plug the cable in and the guitar, and then I'm ready to go with what I've already got. Because I got some amp software on my computer, which is free but not free. I'll say that much.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah. So I'm delving into recording a little bit as well, but that's another story for another time.
Well, Richard says nothing wrong with rolling gear. Marshall, good man. Yeah. Well, I know the name Marshall. I'm not a musician. My music talents are not that great. So I think when I was at school, I substituted music for extra PE lessons. So there you go. But Richard, he's a bit of a sound buff and acoustics, and he got a couple of Gibson guitars, I believe, and I know that.
Well, I got a genuine Fender Stratocaster right behind me, actually.
Oh, blimey! Show us. Okay.
If you give me a second, I'll open it up.
There you go. This is like guitar porn. Oh, dearie me! Well, he's getting that. I'll get.
When I did post pictures of this on Facebook, but
I saw a picture of you with holding the bad boy in front of you.
It is a genuine Fender Stratocaster. I checked the serial number, and it was made in the late 70s.
Wow.
It was my dad's guitar, and it's actually got. Yes, it is upside down right now. It's actually worn away in the body here from how much my dad's played it. That's not cosmetic. That's actually how much my dad's played it.
Okay, so definitely must have loved the guitar.
Yeah, it was his favourite guitar. I was playing around with it today, just because I could. I'm trying to learn Satch Boogie. Don't know if Richard knows that song.
He hasn't said anything in the comments, so.
Not yet.
No, fair enough. Cool. Right. So we covered that. What else do you want to cover?
Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Is that your 2 cents? Okay, that's
my 2 cents.
Your 2 pennies. This week I've done no gaming Oh, Richard says, I love my bows and I want to acquire Signature, the Edge, Stratocaster, released early this year. Strat is boss guitar, very nice piece of kit. High praises from our Lord Almighty.
I knew Richard would like that one, but I've also got if he knows these guitars, I've got a Dean Razorback, which was £1,000 guitar when I got it. It was the guitar that Dimebag Darrell designed before he was killed, and I've also got a Music Man John Petrucci Signature as well. Full £1,600 worth of guitar, and it's beautiful, and I use it to practice on because it's perfect.
That's an expensive hobby.
A
hobby, a love, whatever.
Expensive, but yeah, the one guitar was £1,600. The other one was £1,000. This guitar could sell for about £1,700. I checked, but I'm not going to sell it because it's got more sentimental value.
Of course.
So yeah.
Blimey. Well, I feel left out now. I need an instrument. I got a tambourine. There you go.
Yeah, recorders, like back in school, they force you to play the recorders and say, I don't want to do this. It's not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Right, what else do you want to cover, mate?
Well, that was all I had this week. I did have something I was trying to look up and read into before the podcast started, which was a Scorpio. I don't know much about it, but the rumors are that the specs are supposed to be that the GPU is going to be around 6 teraflops. Excuse me.
Okay.
And it's rumored that it could use Vega because it's all from AMD. So because obviously they got the Vega and the Ryzen coming out, they might want to put that into the new console. So, this console uses Vega and Ryzen, and look how amazing it is. But the thing with the Scorpio, from what I've been reading and what I expect it to be, it won't be a genuine 4K console, just like how the PS Pro isn't a genuine 4K. It will be able to play less demanding games in 4K because, say for example, indie games are like 1080p, 60 FPS on the PS3, something stupid like that. So less demanding games will be in true 4K, but they won't be as pretty necessarily as, say, something like Battlefield 1 or Crisis 3, something like that, which demands a lot more horsepower to run. Have everyone pretty graphics.
If that's true, then I'm a bit disappointed, really, because a lot of people have been praising the PS4 Pro.
It uses very smart upscaling techniques. For 4K, if the game, as far as I'm aware, the game's running 1440p, and then it upscales to 4K. So you're still getting a pretty sharp image, but it's still not native 1440p.
No.
There was a new game coming out. I forget what it's about. It's basically like dinosaurs, like cyborg sort of dinosaurs. I forget what it's called, but that's Digital Foundry did a really good job analyzing the FPS and everything.
Horizon, new Horizon, PS4 exclusive. Yeah.
It's 30 FPS, but games like that on consoles, I'm like, 30 FPS is fine. But yeah, it plays in 1440p and upscales to 4K as opposed to running in native 4K. And from what I've been reading, the Scorpio is going to be doing the exact same thing. It's going to be upscaling games. It's got a bit more horsepower than the PS4 Pro, but we'll see how the devs use that as opposed to saying, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be the best console ever.
Horizon Zero Dawn, that's the name of the game. It did look stunning, I got to admit, some of the demos, but it depends. Again, it goes back to the developers. This is how the coding is done, how optimized is it, because you can have a capability of a console to do 4K, but if the game is not optimized well, it's going to look rubbish. Doesn't matter how powerful your system is. So, but that's unusual, because firstly, what I saw about Scorpio was 4K, and people.
I think it's just a market for it's clever upscaling. It will look good. Don't get me wrong, but it won't be true 4K.
Well, you have to think about it. Okay, you have to think about it that on the PC platform to get 4K. at a playable rate. Now, consoles will say 30 is enough, 30 FPS is enough. Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Then you look at the graphics cards that can do 4K at 30 FPS and see the horsepower that it needs to do that on a PC.
Pretty much the same price as the consoles, so they're quite they're quite demanding in their own right.
Yeah. When's any idea when Scorpio due to be released?
It's either late this year or early next year, I think. I didn't actually see that, and because I haven't got any web pages open, I can't look at it either because my internet sucks.
That's all right. Well, sticking on consoles, the Nintendo Switch. I heard that is not even going to be 1080p.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I heard. It's also going to be 720p.
I mean,
it's not as powerful as what...
You know, whether you enjoy it or not, but at the same time, you know, technology is moving at the rate where people want HD. You know, 720p, I don't really class 720p as HD anymore because of...
I think it's probably the hardware that they expected to be in it is not as powerful as what was rumored, and most likely will he use upscaling technology. Most likely. That's what... because the advantage of that is a portable gaming device. Two people can play with it. You get home, you can whack it, and boom, on your telly. Well, most TVs, no offense, unless you're living in the dark ages, 1080p upwards, aren't they? HD.
I mean, I got my TV in this room is really old. I got it. Jesus Christ, when did I get that? Probably well over 10 years ago, and it's a 1080p TV. It's a 32-inch 1080p HD TV, and I got it when I was playing my Xbox 360 and PS3, and I've still got it. It works fine for what I use it for. I mean, I've even got a PS3 hooked up to it now. Use it for like Sky and all that fun shenanigans. But, you know, consoles have been using upscaling for probably, I don't know about the PS2. I think the PS2 was a genuine resolution.
Yep.
But the PS3 and the Xbox 360 both use upscaling techniques to reach 720p and 1080p. The images were never in true, you know, true HD resolutions.
Yeah. Richard says, can you imagine if they gave the upgradability to consoles with GPUs outside them like docks, as you can get them with laptops? So you can get docking stations for laptops. Yeah, but it's an add-on, isn't it? It's one of those. It's one of them crossovers, consoles to PC hardware wise. As coming consoles are going to find out how to keep up very soon.
I mean, I like consoles because they're an enclosed little unit. They're their own little ecosystem in their own little box. The hardware doesn't change. Once it's released, the developers know what they're getting, they know what they can do with it, and they've got to develop the game for it. Whereas PC, yes, it's better.
Too many variants.
Yeah, there's too many variables. So in order to get the better performance, you kind of have to overshoot with your hardware in order to get that advantage, because let's be honest, the consoles, they do have some pretty impressive looking graphics. Yes, I know PC elitists will see, oh, you know, that draw distance isn't quite as good. But, you know, when you're, you know, just sat chilling out playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and you're just head shooting people from like a mile away, and you're not really going to give a crap about that sort of thing. You just want to chill out and play a video game. You know, I mean, I know someone who's a good friend of mine, he doesn't notice the difference of that at all. He's got a PS4 Pro, and I have looked and I have been analysing it without actually telling him that I've been doing it, but it does smoothen the image. If he's playing on 1080p,
upscaling will do that.
It will basically add in extra anti-aliasing, and it will smoothen out the jaggies, so there's no stepping, basically, screen resolution. So it's almost like the anti-aliasing is like, you know, turned to the max, so 1080p is as smooth as possible. So he was playing Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1, and it looked really pretty.
And it will do. Technology has moved on. The quality of the panels on TVs are better. And don't get me wrong. I you know, console kids, they're not going to know the difference between 60 FPS and God knows what, whatever they're playing, Zelda or God knows what.
Well, I was talking to him actually before we wrap this up. I was actually talking to him recently about FPSs, and when we were playing Destiny quite a lot, you know, together because it was a co-op game, I don't play anymore. It was when I was telling the difference between like.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he was like, well, isn't Destiny 60 FPS? And I was like, no. He couldn't tell the difference basically between 60 and 30 until I, told him, what the difference was. Like, basically 60 is much smoother, much more fluid, as opposed to 30. It looks more film-like, a bit more.
Lag.
Yeah, just a bit more blurry
Yeah.
in terms of like the motion. Like you can probably see because obviously the webcam and internet, but my hand moving now have a blur to it.
Yeah, and they are the trace.
Yeah, that's the only way I can describe it is that the frames aren't there, and because they aren't there, the monitor, I think, if I remember watching a Linus Tech Tips thing about it, is that the monitor is actually filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
Or is it your brain filling in the blanks? I can't remember.
No.
He was getting really.
Well, it's. I mean, frames per second is getting ridiculous. I think ASUS has released a panel, 240 FPS panel, 4K.
Now I can understand.
Oh, sorry, no, 240 hertz panel.
Yeah, I can understand seeing the difference between 60 and 120. Especially with Counter-Strike players, but are you really going to see the difference between 120 and 240?
But here's the question, right? So if you've got a 4K panel that's 240 hertz, can you tell me what graphics card are you going to stick on that to be able to play that at that specific? Do you know what I'm
playing all games on the lowest settings possible.
Well, that's what I mean. But why would? This is what I mean. I mean, I'm still at 60. My 2 screens that I've got does what it needs to do all the way from Korea. Thank you. And it does the job. Don't get me wrong. I've played on a 120 hertz monitor. Yes, I can see a difference. Played 144 hertz between the 120 and 144. Can't see a difference. But I am not a hardcore gamer. Now, a hardcore gamer might see that and say, yes, I need the highest frame rates and the least lag, and fair enough. But for a casual person like me that just likes to pot about with tech,
I've said it in the previous. I think it was a previous podcast that for the casual gamer such as us, 60 FPS is enough. Yes, I like to see 200 frames per second on Doom, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not getting that. It's just I like to have that performance headway if there's more chaos going on. Whereas if you're, say, a Dota, I think is it Dota 2 or definitely Counter-Strike, those extra frames matter.
I understand that.
The tick rate of the servers, you can actually up the tick rate in the game on the server so that it will be 120 ticks a second so that any adjustments are in real time.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. And I've heard of people with absolute monster machines playing Counter-Strike on the lowest settings just so they have the maximum FPS, even though their machine will handle it. Yeah. But they're still running it at the lowest, settings just so they can get those FPS. It's crazy.
Mental. But the thing is this is the advantage of having a monitor, like you got a 1440p monitor. If I want to see, well, how would that perform at a lower resolution? Because there's nothing wrong with 1080p. Whack a game, and all of a sudden, a game that maybe we're struggling at 2K, put it at 1080p, oh look, like 240 frames a second. Hey! Mental.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we go, there's one game I signed up for the beta of Ghost Recon.
All right.
Let's see if I can just put a full in there. Switch that over. Puff. And hopefully, I'll be able to get a chance. So, Ubisoft announced closed beta for Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands starting on Feb the 3rd and ends on the 6th. Preloads of the game will begin on the 1st of Feb. The beta will support solo play and also 4-player co-op. The actual game itself and the footage that I've seen looks pretty smart, I got to admit, but I don't want to be bitten once again like the Siege. I got to admit the last game that I bought from Ubisoft was Watch Dogs 2, and that was alright. That was really good. Bit short, the campaign, but that was enjoyable. And they think they released new DLC. But the actual game itself, from graphics side of things, open world, with 4 friends working together, and virtually you can tackle a mission either way. Looks quite appealing to me. That's the sort of game that I kind of like. What do you what do you think?
I used to be really into my tactical shooters, but when it comes to FPS, I prefer games like Crysis. I prefer games like Doom, Call of Duty, where it's like fast-paced Twitch sort of shooter, as opposed to take my time and plan out my attacks. You know, I used to be really into it, but not these days. I mean, I'm not saying I can't get into it if I had a co-op buddy to play it with.
Yeah.
But you know, at the moment, say yeah, it's probably cool, but I probably wouldn't be getting it.
The other game that came out yesterday is Resident Evil 7. So that was a game that I was actually planning to get, and it's been reviewed, and it had pretty good.
I bet it's really scary.
Said amazing sound design, generally terrifying, superb voice acting across the board, and stellar visuals. Some of the cons saying the plot points aren't impactful as they should be, and the VR experience is quite nauseating because there's a VR. But the actual what made me laugh is, if I can find it, Resident Evil 7 speedrunners can already beat the game under 2 hours. So virtually, the point of the game is anything that moves, you run away from it. Don't complete anything, just run away. And the actual game itself, there was a Twitch streamer, Sterling, his name is, put a world record run of 1 hour and 51 minutes and 2 seconds. And since he got the game...
That'll be beaten, no doubt.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it was his first play. I think the game came out and he streamed 14 hours pretty much straight doing, the
I can't get into stuff like that. I want to enjoy a game. I don't want to, let's see how fast I can beat it sort of deal. I mean, I think I managed to get the original Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1. How fast I get it? Under 3 hours, I think.
Yeah.
But that game originally to me was like a 15, 16 hour game, maybe more, because I was really just taking my time and enjoying it. But when I knew what I was doing, I would rush through it and do it in a couple of hours. And in fact, I would do it in one sitting at times. But these days, I like to really enjoy my game.
I wish I had time to enjoy this. I am not kidding. I think this week I switched on my PC 3 times, and it was like, where's this week gone? And it's coming to Friday, and it's like, bloody hell, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's like, but hey-ho, not going to talk that about on air. So,
right.
Anything else you want to cover, my friend? Because I said 1 hour. I don't want to ramble more than an hour.
Yeah, no, I think that's it for me as well. I got things I need to sort out before I go to bed, and I'm going to get up early. So
right, okay, cool.
That's how it is.
When are you going to send me the graphics card?
It's on its way.
It's on its way. Awesome.
It's on its way.
Awesome. Cool. And I don't know what to do next week. This is probably one of the first times that I normally got everything planned up ahead.
Yeah.
But this week everything's just been...
play it by ear, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to stream every week, but, you know.
We will see. We will see. This is like my hour of time to vent and, you know.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy our little podcasts. But we will see how this pans out for the next couple of weeks, months, whatever. But anyway, final word from yourself?
See you next week.
See you next week. Right here, Thursday, 9 o'clock. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.